I gave birth to my son while I was high on methamphetamine. And this is a little bit of my story. So I know what you're thinking right now. You're thinking, oh my God, what a piece of shit. How could she do that? She doesn't deserve to have her son. She should have had an abortion. She is not worthy of being blessed with a child. And I would have to say, while I was in active addiction and I was doing the things that I was doing, I would have to say that you're right. I agree with you. I wasn't acting worthy of having a child. I wasn't doing the right thing to protect my son. By the glory of God, my son was protected from me. By God, protected from his own mother while he was in the womb and supposed to be safe. See, I had been addicted to drugs since I was about 17 years old. And that was about 1999. In 2012, I met my husband, Neil, and we fell deeply in love. Like, we became attached at the hip immediately. It was September 2012. By the next year, I was pregnant with my son. It was around November of 2013 when I found out that I was pregnant with my son. And I was very, very afraid because I had been struggling with addiction for over 15 years. And all the times I had tried to get sober, I couldn't stay sober. I would relapse after about 6 to 9 months every single time. July 3rd of 2014, it was 5 a.m. and I started having a horrible pain in my back. Baby, when I tell you it made me feel like I had ice picks being stabbed in my lower back, I thought I was going to die, so I rushed to the hospital. It was 8 a.m. when my husband got home and took me. And I was 1 centimeter dilated. And I was high on methamphetamine. I begged them, please let me go home because I cannot sit still in here, and they let me go home. So I went home, and for the next 8 hours, I was in labor at my home, bouncing on this exercise ball, getting in and out of the hot tub, doing everything I could to get this back labor to settle down. At 8:30 that night, I showed back up at the hospital, and when I got there, I was 8.5 centimeters dilated. They quickly gave me an epidural, and I started pushing by about 9:45 p.m. And baby, I was in pain. So the doctor said, let me give you another, little round of fentanyl in your epidural. So they put it in the tube that was going into my vein, and I literally stopped feeling my legs. I tried to push for 30 minutes, and they said, you're sucking the baby back inside. So we had to take a push break because I couldn't feel my legs from all the fentanyl. Well, we came back after a 30-minute push break, and my baby boy was delivered, healthy and happy as a little clam. You guys, I'm telling you, God protected my son from me because he came out 100% healthy. They didn't say anything about him having drugs in his system. His APGAR scores were great. And 2 days later, I got to go home with him. I stayed sober for 90 days after I got back to the house, and I white-knuckled it. And when I tell you the shame and guilt ate me alive, when I ended up relapsing, I relapsed on Xanax, and that quickly took me back to my drug of choice, which was IV methamphetamine and IV oxys. And I was back to the races for a whole nother year. My husband was working overnight, so I would leave the house and leave my son with his Gigi and Papa, and I wouldn't show back up for days and days at a time. When I tell you guys the guilt and shame that I feel over what I did when I was pregnant and then after I gave birth to my son, I feel horrible. 2 days before my son's birthday, my best friend called CPS on me, and my son got taken from me.